stronger anti-deed theft laws that give prosecutors more power to protect victims by establishing deed theft as a crime and amending the statute.
By establishing deed theft as a crime. The word theft is indeed theft, and it wasn't a crime. Are y'all listening? I'm gonna let that sink in. The word theft is indeed theft, and that theft wasn't a crime. And this has been like this for years. And the reason why is because in our cities, the county clerks often relied on only signatures or notaries. Remember the notaries, don't forget that. So there was no safeguards. And if it was only a few safeguards that was against. That's forgery right there. In other words, as long as America has had recorded land titles, there have been people stealing land through that type of fraud. So they went from forging paper deeds in the 1800s and by the 1900s, I'm gonna say like the mid 1900s. No, I would say like in 1912, 1920s. That's when they started the digital filings. Then identity theft became a thing. What you think April Fools was all about? They were trying to fool our people out of not only their land, but their identity too. So when they forge your paperwork on deeds, you think they ain't gonna know? Come on, people. You trust in the same people that forged documents to take your land, to take your home away from you, right up under you. And they still doing it today. Hold on, I'll come back to this. Hold on, I'm gonna show you an example. Hold on. This is what they doing right now. Let me go to 9x16. This is right now. Look, where we at? Right here.
They're trying to scam my boy out his property. Look, it's the second time he came around talking about he trying to get him.
All right, Daniel.
Trying to scam.
I came to do inspection of the house.
Ain't no inspection. You don't own the house. Get out of here. You don't own nothing.
You know this is a court order.
Like, get court orders.
With a Louis Vuitton belt.
No, get out of here. Fake ass court.
Oh.
Look at this nigga trying to scam.
Ho. Come on, y'all, hit the like button. Look, we about to get into it because you not. Who's doing that, Dane? I'm showing you. I'm showing you. Ain't but one group of people doing it. Let's be real. Let's be real. Ain't you tired of the same old, same old? And look, and this is for my people right here. Right here, this message right here is for my people. Ain't you tired of this shit right here? And this is across the country. It's happened in North Carolina. It's happening in Texas. It's happening in Tennessee, Massachusetts, Arizona, Michigan, Maryland, Virginia, South Carolina, Kentucky, and California. Just in 2025 alone. Ooh, listen. In 2025 alone, a national survey, and I pulled this up. It was a 2025 national survey of real estate professionals, and they found awareness of deed theft or title fraud in markets across 43 states, plus Washington, D.C. I personally know that they were doing that in D.C. because I know somebody that got land in D.C. for 1 penny. I don't know them personally like I'm on their side, but I'm aware of how he got that. White guy too, Jew, by the way, got that landmass for 1 penny, and I brought it up when it happened and nobody said nothing. But see, I'm not the political type. I'm thinking about it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm thinking about it because if I was mayor in DC, it will be a whole rack of shit shutting. I will shut that shit down. And I'm gonna tell you right now, the hood's gonna have my back. I ain't even gonna need your security because everybody know what the fuck happened. I will make sure that let me say professionally now. I will make sure that the real DC will look like Chocolate City all over again, and which it should be. In 2025, this was last year, y'all. We just in April. We in April now of 2026. Last year, this was happening in 43 states. Some of the it says some of the states most frequently mentioned in news reports and law enforcement warnings are New York, Texas, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Maryland, and Michigan. And that was by the FBI. Let me start putting stuff on screen again. So people won't think I'm playing. What that say right there? April 1st. What that say right there? FBI Boston warns quick claim deed fraud is on the rise. 2025. April 1st, 2025. The same old shit that been happening for years, and it be the same old suspects that be getting away with it for years. How come that wasn't against the law? So how many other states is this still lawful? Remember when I told y'all that they never showed y'all, I'm about to make this deep. Remember when I told y'all that they never showed y'all the slave codes? And the reason why they couldn't show you the slave codes that they put out there in every state? I should start doing giveaways or something, some type of prize or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause if somebody can answer that question accurately based off of what I put out there, I should give them something. Because that's major. That's major. I went over it numerous times in the past in documentary format, especially. I'm about to start doing that because that would really excite me to let me know that I know people have been paying attention because I do hear people regurgitating my stuff on a daily basis. And I'm actually proud of that because that means that more people are learning and I didn't waste my time this whole 10 years I've been on YouTube. People have been paying attention to the history that has not been told to our people for a reason, because they know it's going to put us in position to win once we recognize what the problem is and we solve that problem by not allowing that problem to happen again. You know, when they say history repeats itself, the slave trade codes, and that was it. And the reason why is because the slave codes wasn't about putting you in slavery by chains and shackles. It was about taking everything from you. That's why. Notice how every state, Alabama, Arizona, California, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Oregon, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, Washington, and West Virginia. This was all last year. New York was the only one that made this illegal the year before. And then they said plus DC. So think about that. How long has this been going on? And I told you since the 1800s. Does it sound like any politician that claimed that they need the black person's vote mention anything like this as to the reason why things like project housing happen, redlining happen? The Justice Department doesn't, it's like they work against us because they do. They're assigned to work against us. This is their duty. That government is for foreigners only. The civil rights was for foreigners only. They did not write. They made pretend like they wrote it in the Indians' favor. And they handed it to foreigners. This is a nationwide problem. And they especially attacking the people that's in the low DC, in the low income areas, DC. Look, remember how we gonna be looking at our projects at DC, for example. The reason why I'm using DC so much is because I'm from there. And I want folks in DC and Maryland that know about the areas like, for example, the hoods that they got rid of, okay? That they tore down and put up beautiful homes. And you think that's actually good, that's gentrification, and that was done on purpose. And keep in mind, it was beautiful homes before Berry Farms was there, as an example, okay? And then they put Berry Farms there. The people they consistently move our people further and further away from the inner cities. Whatever they consider an inner city, then they push our people out. That's what they've been doing. Moving our people. Immigration with an E. Moving our people. We wasn't being shipped to Africa. We were being shipped in places in America on purpose by way of gentrification to make more room for incoming foreigners. That's been going on for years, and I've been teaching about it for a while. You got to understand that this is not a game. Everything I've been teaching about is factual. Nobody can say I'm talking out the side of my neck when it comes to this topic or any topic that I talk about, because I know my shit. I know what I'm talking about, and I'm pulling this shit up. Look. Tennessee woman pleads guilty to wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. Look how identity theft is going right with it. Wire fraud. Scheme involving fraudulent deed transfers and property sales. This part wasn't against the law. This part was identity theft. wire fraud, scheme involving. That's not what she got arrested for. The fraudulent scheme involved at least 19 properties worth over $1.4 million. Elisa England, 32, of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
You guys are trying to scam my boy out his property. Look, it's the second time he came around talking about he trying to get him.
Alright, Daniel.
Understand?
I came to do inspection of the house.
Ain't no inspection. You don't own the house. Get out of here. You don't own
Daniel,
nothing.
You know this is a court order.
Like that court order.
8 months vacate.
No, get out of here. Fake ass court order. Look at this nigga trying to scam. This guy been here for years. Get out of here, bro. Get out of here. He's born here. Get out of here. When they call the cops, you came, the cops came, they did nothing. Get out of here. Yo, oh yeah. I don't know if you know this guy trying to scam. We not playing over here. We not playing. We don't give a fuck about that little fake ass hat. We knock his fucking hat off. We not playing. You heard me? We not playing.
I understand.
I'm trying to play. I'm trying to get him the fuck out of here before he gets himself hurt out here. You heard? We don't give a fuck about that hat. You heard? We don't give a fuck about that hat. We'll knock his fucking head off.
Not only do y'all not do this enough, our people. We look, hear me out. I'm gonna get on y'all about that. We get on each other a lot. We'll cuss each other out in a second, in a heartbeat. But we need to be not only leaning on these motherfuckers right here that's actually doing some things to our people, but we need to be handling it properly. It needs to be a structure. And it needs to be known how you could get this stuff fixed. And I put that inside of my book. Y'all gonna be mad because I'm promoting my book. But not only am I promoting my book, I know my book is the truth and it stops this bullshit from happening. This Jew, so-called Zionist, the reason why he's still there is because the property is not truly protected simply because the person's family owns it. Because ownership itself is only the beginning. What's the protection part? See how everybody missed that? We say ownership, ownership, but what about protection? The real protection comes from structure, documentation, continuity, and making certain that the property exists inside of a legal system that we create that's harder to manipulate or is harder to confuse or harder to steal. Codes.
Today we're going to talk about what is equity. And we're going to dive a little bit into what the meaning of equity is and why it is a word with way more power, usage, and leverage than you can ever imagine this word to be. Before I dive a little bit into equity, we're going to talk or share a little bit about the definition and etymology of the word equity. So equity is a noun, and the etymology meaning or definition or history of this word, it started in early 14th century, and equity was created in those times, in that history point, to mean quality of being equal or fair, impartial in dealing with others, and it's from Old French equit, 13th century, from Latin nominative equitius, meaning equality, uniformity, conformity, symmetry, fairness, equal rights, kindness, moderation. Now, the definition of equity is also defined as a noun, and the definition of equity is a system of law originating in the English Chancery and comprising a settled and formal body of legal and procedural rules and doctrines that supplement, aid, or override common statute law and are designed to protect rights and enforce duties fixed by substantive law. So basically, another way to define this word equity is a body of legal doctrines and rules developed to enlarge, supplement, or override a narrow, rigid system of law. Now, equity is basically it's looked at as a legal terminology or a legal ideology, yet equity is very dynamic. And equity can be utilized whether in the mind or whether in legal doctrine to define something of value, something that is to be looked at, dealt with, presented, acted in, or acted together of something that inquires fairness, kindness, the ability to see both sides of the scale, both sides of what's to the left and what is to the right. And this podcast, though it will be very short, I just wanted to give an overview of what is equity. And equity from a legal terminology perspective is implied as a fairness. And equity is actually given or created in legal terminology and the legal sector as a governing of people, or to govern the people, or it governs people. Equity, that is. And equity is also viewed in legal terminology as a standard in performance. Now, the bigger picture of why I decided to create this podcast and talk a little bit about equity, because there are going to be several podcasts that I'm going to create that talks about the law of contracts and what is a contract. And I wanted to start with the understanding and dive a little bit into the knowledge of what is equity, because it's going to be hugely important in the future in tying these ideologies together. So the purpose of equity is to know that equity is usually used in the terminology when concerning law. And there are different kinds of laws. You have commercial law, you have family law, you have business law. And though there are different sectors of law and how people that are governed by a specific nation or government apply these laws in different ways. And if one does not understand or have knowledge of what equity is and the value of equity when dealing in law or dealing in a contract, they are not going to be privy to the power and the range of what equity can do for you specifically. And I'm going to tie this a little bit into the commercial side of law and wanted to touch a little bit about that, because when one has equity, meaning fairness, based off that definition of the word, based off the etymology of the word equity, meaning quality of being equal or fair, we can see how we can run into a misunderstanding or a problem or an issue when dealing in law or dealing in contracts. Now, there are many types of contracts, right? There are paper contracts, there are verbal contracts, there are unspoken contracts, but I'm talking specifically about paper contracts. Very similar to a job application, very similar to, let's say, a marriage contract, very similar to a business contract where you have a partnership involved. And equity is that foundational essence, that spirit of working with one entity being as something that is equal to you.
This is Matriarch Endeavor's YouTube channel. We welcome you. Thank you for watching.